Okay, I'd like to call the December 14th meeting of the Regional Planning Governing Board to order. Can we please start with a roll call?
Jenny Breckes, absent. Naomi Dewar.
Here.
Paul McKenzie. Here. Marsha Berkbigler.
Here.
Charlene Bybee.
Here.
David Bobzien.
Here.
Donald Abbott. Here. Ed Lawson. Here. Von Hartung.
With plague.
Jean Herman.
Here.
And non-voting member Veronica Frankel, absent.
Okay, wonderful. I would like to invite our newest member of the governing board, Councilman Abbott, to lead us in the pledge this afternoon.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving now to approval of the agenda.
So
Can I have-
moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman McKenzie and a second by Councilman Lawson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Yes, I have the
Any
plague.
opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, I'm with you now.
Approval of the minutes, October 26th, 2017 Regional Planning Governing Board meeting.
Second?
We have a motion by Councilman Lawson, a second by Councilman Bybee. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving now to public comment. I have, let's see here. Go through my list. We'll invite Kathy Brandhorst up.
I gotta run upstairs and get my plug. I'll be right back.
My name is Kathy Brandhorst, and I am the United States President. I just wanted to tell you, I still live on C Street in Sparks. I was at the police department and I heard some awful things. The Sparks Police Department needed assistance on C Street, and they contacted the Reno Police Department for assistance. They were ambushed, as you can see right now. The Reno Police Department was ambushed. The bullets killed and murdered the police officers that were responding, to Sparks, where I live, on C Street. And while they were there, the Sparks PD was also shot down. I don't know how many police officers we lost that day. It is in the daytime. And we are having lots of problems over there because of break-ins. Also squatters who do not live there at all. They do not pay their rent, so they don't live there. They do not pay their gas and electric. They do not live there. Also, they do not have no water. So how are they gonna, live there without the water? They cannot. They don't live there. And this is still going on the property where I live right now. Right now, we are experiencing lockouts. They had enough time to get out because they were already evicted. They were already told that they would have to leave the property. They cannot come back to the property at all. So they had the right to put out the lockouts on their doors and tell them they cannot return ever. But they are still returning to the property. They're climbing through the windows. And there they are, back on the property inside the apartments. And they are terrorizing everybody on the property because they don't have a place to live or nothing. Remember, these people are all on death row. They don't have an income. They cannot get an income even from the Social Security office either. They cannot get an income from payroll checks. They don't have jobs at all.
Invite up Tammy Holdstill.
Tammy Holt, still Lemon Valley Swan Lake Recovery Committee. The water's still there, I'm still here. We've had some good progress with the city of Reno, talking about the flooding and things that can be done, and we're looking forward to where that's going to go. I've had 2 meetings so far, and things are moving along, so I'm really appreciative of that. I know with Commissioner Herman, she's working to try and assist the residents with elevations of homes, and there are a lot of residents out there that are definitely interested in that, and she has to sign documents for that also. What you see on the screen right here is something we had found with the open spaces regarding Swan Lake and Silver Lake. There has been contention as far as a natural stream that feeds from Swan Lake to Silver Lake, and there is. I will submit these so that you guys can see them later and enjoy the reading on them. I also would like to bring to your guys' attention, one of the things is the USGS report regarding urban development, and that development in floodplains and what happens downstream, even though it may be stream related, it also affects closed basins. And a good example would be the Prado Ranch that maybe one day will be coming to you guys. That right now is under 2 feet of water. I didn't bring any pictures for you, I apologize. But they fill that up 10 feet. My home, which is not in the floodplain, will all of a sudden be in a floodplain, just like the residents on Idaho Street who were not in a floodplain in the like 1990s to early 2000s. They didn't become being in a floodplain until all the urban development happened. So there's issues that need to be addressed. The state of Nevada has made you the governing body, and as a governing body, it's time to start looking at what development does and correct the situations before it affects anybody else. What else did I want to talk about? As far as what's happening with the residents on Pompeii, the berm is being built. Washoe County did approve $300,000 to start that process. As far as our committee is concerned, it's a little late, considering they turned around and sent out a letter telling these residents that they needed to fix their property, but yet water, as of November 16th, ended up back on their property. So how, when it's wet, do they fix their property when it was dry was when they should have fixed it, but couldn't fix it because there was no berm to protect them? And why would you want to spend $20,000 trying to fix your home if it's covered?
Okay, thank you. Moving to item 6, consent agenda. I believe we have public comment for 6C. Ms. Kathy Brandhorst.
My name is Kathy Brandhorst, and I'm also the United States President. It would be 6C for, let me see, ratification of affordable housing agreements. Truckee Meadows Healthy Communities. Well, unfortunately, where they moved me to on C Street, they didn't tell me that the people don't live there. They're very poor people. They cannot afford nothing at all. And that's where they stuck me. It's called affordable housing. Well, I can pay a little bit more, but they had to put me into an area where it's just not a place for humans to live at all. It says Enterprise Community Partners Consulting Agreement, to which Truckee Meadows Regional Planning. Well, I just want to, as a third-party beneficiary, I just wanted to tell you, you know, even though you put us someplace, why don't you tell us what kind of an area that you are putting us into? Even though I was told that I own the apartment, but I have been shot down right on my property with bullet holes because the people who were living in my apartment were evicted. Oh. They came back on the property and they said they still refuse to move out. They still walk through my apartment with their guns and their machete knives, and they turn into snakes. And you call this a place to live? No, it is not a place for humans at all, especially when my body has to be put back together after after I was destroyed. You know, also the agreement with the management is just not there either. Oh, I don't remember that. Oh, no, I couldn't have remembered that either. But you know, even though they remember or they don't remember about the evictions on my place, I have had stabbings. I've also had cancer. Oh, and I've also been raped because those people still wanted to go back to their apartment, which I live in.
Okay, thank you. Any members wishing to pull items from the consent agenda? Mr. McKenzie.
Pull item 6A for discussion, please, or for a little presentation.
Okay. Any others? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the remaining items.
Move approval of everything except 6A.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Burke-Bigler, second by Commissioner Hartung. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move to item 6A. Good afternoon, Lauren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Lauren Knox, Regional Planning. So item 6A really discusses concurrency management. So in 2006, a regional plan amendment was approved relating to the provision of infrastructure being concurrent with the impacts of new development. The RPGB at that time further passed a motion directing local government staff to provide this board with a status report on the implementation of concurrency management policies, and this is done on an annual basis. So we work with local government staff to understand the progress of this implementation, and that's what this report is about. I'm happy to go over any questions or that item specifically.
Mr. McKenzie?
Yeah, thank you. And after several hours of discussion about this last night, where are we as far as, I mean, I don't want to claim that the city of Reno is completely in compliance with the concurrency at the regional plan. Where are the different entities in compliance with the concurrency requirements of the regional plan?
Yeah, so in terms of each entity, what we did have initially, so when this policy came in, there was kind of what's called a list of scheduled additions. So it basically says, okay, we've had this regional plan amendment, and now we would like the local master plans to address it. So with that, the city of Reno has had that be found in conformance, as well as the city of Sparks. With Washoe County, there is a public services and facility element that was anticipated to come in following that, where we would be reviewing for the concurrency management policies. It hasn't come in yet, but we are working with staff, and we are talking with them through the regional plan update in terms of how we can better address this, but we have been working with staff there.
Okay, and then we're moving forward with our regional plan update, and do we foresee major changes in our concurrency requirements as far as from the input we've got so far?
I'm not sure at this point what it looks like, but we have heard from a lot of different folks that we do want to have the discussion and really get into that policy pretty deeply. So I don't know what it's going to look like at this point, though.
Ms. Robinson, do you have anything to add? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren. Entertain a motion to accept the report unless, Commissioner Hartung, do you have any comments on this one?
Man with the plague would like to speak. In terms of concurrency, this is a really tough conversation to have. I mean, who's concurrent? We approve all manner of projects without infrastructure being in place, and then the infrastructure has to be put in place. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. Cold Springs, when we approved it, they did not have a sewer treatment plant. The first house cost them about $18 million. It's just the way it is. We talked yesterday at Tumwa about Stonegate and also about West Reno Water and how those plans would move forward and how we would serve them, and yet no infrastructure exists. So it's I don't want to call the conversation about concurrency disingenuous, but we recognize that when we start to approve plans, we put conditions on developers that they have to put certain pieces of infrastructure in place prior to getting things up and running. Sometimes we can approve pieces of plans without certain pieces of infrastructure in place where they can get in traffic signals, as an example. Those are important pieces of infrastructure for safety. And I don't know whether we include that, but we'll allow them to get up and running where then they would trigger warrants and then put those pieces of infrastructure in place. So this conversation about concurrency, it's tough to have. And I recognize that the city of Reno inherited Winnemucca Ranch, but there's no infrastructure out there. And if they are to put a shovel in the ground, how do you deal with that? Because it would not meld with the concurrency plans and requirements of the regional plan. So do you understand where I'm going with this about how concurrency all fits together with each one of the entities?
No, absolutely. And I would have a little bit of objection to the characterization that the discussion is disingenuous. I share your concerns about Winnemucca Ranch, and I think there's various levels of, if we're talking the Sphere versus an actual PUD coming online, big differences. And, to that end, you have seen the city of Reno relinquish Sphere in areas around Winnemucca Ranch, I think grounded with an understanding that from a concurrency perspective, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't make sense,
So,
right.
It's my personal hope that in the process of this regional plan update, we are, to Councilman McKenzie's point, going to take a very rigorous look at concurrency and see, and frankly, see if we can up our game.
All I'm suggesting is that each one of us put things into play where we know we have to put infrastructure into place. And so even though the plan itself initially does not have infrastructure in place, it's that long-term planning whereby infrastructure gets put into place to accommodate that.
Sure. Councilman Dorr.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding of concurrency is not that there's an existing sewer plan or existing road with capacity or anything. My understanding is that as you authorize things and as they get built in phases, the supporting infrastructure will be built around the same time. I mean, I don't think I don't know that it speaks on the day that the first house exists. Obviously, on the day the first house exists, you have to have water. On the day the first house exists, you have to have some, as your point, the sewer. But you may not have the sewer plant built out to the, with all of the units built. You might have unit 1 built. But some of the things come along as you build. I mean, that's always been my understanding of concurrency, is not that it's existing prior to your approval.
Well, and to your point, you're correct that a sewer plant doesn't have to have full capacity, but it did have to be in place
Of course.
prior to.
I mean, you have to have a road to get to the place too. I mean, So,
But I think.
but I mean, it doesn't make the concept of concurrency flawed or irrelevant or anything.
It does
me.
though, in my opinion, speak to, a lot of times people will say to us, you don't have infrastructure in place and so therefore you can't build.
And I don't know who these people
No,
are, but
and I think,
they're-
unless we want to hear from anyone else, I think to wrap the conversation up, I would agree with the notion that there's always going to be imperfections in the system.
Correct.
But that is not a reason for us to not engage vigorously, as I said, in the discussion. So do we have a motion?
I'll move to accept the report.
Motion by Councilwoman Dorr and a second by Councilman McKenzie. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We will move now to business of the day, 7A, presentation, consideration, and possible direction to staff regarding source water protection and watershed management in Washoe County effort, including but not limited to contracting for provisions of GIS services. I will say I'm personally pretty excited about this. This has been briefed on it, and it sounds like a great project, but please, take it away.
And any random person.
All right, thank you,
Oh, yes,
Chair,
we have
members
any
of the
random-
board,
oh,
Chris Tully, Team RPA for the
Okay.
record.
Of course.
So as the Chair introduced, this item is regarding source water protection and watershed management in Washoe County, the effort, overall effort. I'm going to introduce the item and Team RPA's involvement, and then pass the presentation on to Kim and Birgit, and possibly Lynn. Oh, maybe not. There she is.
For some reason, she just went all the way to the
Yeah.
back just now. I caught that, Lynn. Yeah, okay.
Oh, she's photoing.
They'll provide more detail about the effort, and then we'll circle back and cover the recommendation and suggested motion from staff. So just to go over the background, so this is a voluntary planning effort with stakeholder-driven objectives and goals. It is a basis to obtain funding for water quality projects in Washoe County, and then funded through NDEP and coordinated by RCI. TMRPA staff have participated in the effort since March of 2017. The stakeholder list includes, among others, regional agencies and local governments. So that I'll go ahead and pass the presentation on to Kim, and then again, we'll circle back. Kim, very good.
Thank you, Chris. Chris has been a part of our team for a while. Just for the record, I'm Kim Borgsener with the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection, and I'm here with Birgit Henson with the same division. And we run two water programs at the state in different bureaus, but we are involved in moving that forward in Washoe County as kind of a dovetailing to the One Truckee River Fund, or One Truckee River planning effort. So we were involved in that planning effort for a little bit of time, and this was one of the priorities in that planning effort, and we decided it was a fundable, workable project for us to move forward with. So we're excited to be here. I see a lot of familiar faces that have heard this before, so we'll keep it quick and simple. I guess that was a slide I should have had up while I was introducing us. So the purpose of the plan is essentially to take a look at where the drinking water resources are in this community, wells and the Truckee River, and look at a way that we could regionally approach protecting those sources and improving water quality through watershed planning and management. Why involve this agency? We've had some meetings for over a year now, which has been our stakeholder development process. And in that, we have recognized, and our stakeholders have recognized, the partnerships that we need and that would be helpful. And regional planning is one of those partnerships that's kind of a no-brainer in this planning process. With the ability to utilize the regional GIS resources that you have and create tools for the community to use, the partnership would benefit the group immensely. So we're looking really forward to working with this group. This is just a fun, quick slide. It's kind of cute too, to showing all the partnerships. And I believe that you received in your packet kind of a list of all the partners that are already involved. And this is just to show that at the end of the process, we're hoping that all these partners will come together with a list of prioritized projects that NDEP can then move forward with looking at funding. And that's our quick presentation for you. So we'll open it up to staff recommendation or questions for you, or for us.
Any questions for the presenters? Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you. Wonderful ideas here. I'm thrilled with this. On attachment 1, it shows all of the, what impacts the water quality of the Truckee River and the wells. I don't see PCE, the PCE remediation program in here. Where does that fall?
Well, they would be a part of our partnership, and Chris Benedict that runs that program.
Okay.
For years has been a part of our groundwater task force at NDEP, and we would definitely tap into them as not only a partner, but a resource for consideration in this planning effort.
Okay. Have we made any headway on remediation at all? I know we've been paying into it for a while, but I haven't heard other than closing off some wells.
That's a good question that I cannot answer.
Okay, I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
I hate to
apologize.
put somebody else on the spot, but that's our Corrective Actions Bureau, and I'm not really on the cleanup side of things, so I'm sorry. I wish I could address that, but that's not my.
I would love to see that included in here, because that's a huge deal for us, which leads me to the pitch for the Water Innovation Campus that Krishna Pagila is operating and doing research on, where that technology will remove those volatiles.
Yeah, and the
And-
Water Innovation Campus is an exciting.
And it's very
development.
exciting. So I would hope that you would include the Water Innovation Campus, as part of this program, because they're going to be a huge game changer for our region.
Yeah, and that is our intention. We actually have initiated conversations with Professor Pagila.
Yes,
So
wonderful.
it's an exciting new project.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else?
Councilmember Lawson?
Oh, let me see. It's on. There we go. I know, green is on and red is off. So one of my questions, how long are we going to work together?
That's a great question. So we have a contract currently with our Resource Concepts Inc. contractor, and they have a 4-year schedule with us. There's a planning schedule, and I don't know that we included that in the packet. But we are hoping, our hope is to get the actual planning portion of this done in the next 15 months. And then after that, we would spend time vetting the plan to the different agencies and getting it approved. So we're hoping 2020 for approvals, if everything goes according to our schedule.
So mainly what the regional planning is providing is the GIS services.
Correct, under contract with us, yes.
Because
Well, with our CI through our
I
contract.
just I'm going to bring up for future agenda items is how we get NDEP out of our lives when it comes to water. So, and that's a true statement, just based on what's happened with our health department and basically the screeching halt that came to all of our building permits over the last 8 months. So I'm a little leery as to enter into an agreement at this point, given what's going on at the other sections of NDEP.
Councilman Dorr?
Yeah, thank you. I was under the understanding or under the impression that you've had a source water protection program going in Washoe County for some time. Is that a different program than this one?
Well, no, there are wellhead protection programs that have been in place for a while. Tamwa's had an approved wellhead protection plan for quite some time. This planning effort is bringing all the public water systems. There's another 90-something public water systems in Washoe County that don't fall under a protection plan. So what we want to do is use this opportunity to bring them in, get their wells recognized, inventoried, and mapped, so that we understand where all the sensitive areas are, and allow the stakeholders an opportunity to kind of revisit that and decide how they want to.
So this would be Washoe County-wide, not really centered on this metropolitan area, or?
It's supposed to be Washoe County-wide, but right now the focus is the Truckee Meadows. So we're not focused as much right now on Gerlach, although they might, it's such a geographically different location.
Right.
The coordination isn't the same. So right now, this planning effort is really the central Truckee Meadows.
Okay. And then have you assigned a dollar amount and a period for the program? I mean,
We have a budget. Are you asking what the dollar amount is for? Okay, so we have $270,000 a year that we afford our contractor, that we're contracted with RCI to provide the technical assistance to the community to develop the plan. Okay. And that's from one of the programs. I'll let Birgit speak to the financial aspects of hers.
Good afternoon, council members. Birgit Henson, NDEP for the record. In response to your inquiry, we are contracting right now actually with Nevada Land Trust with non-point source 319 money, $100,000 that is matched with another $100,000 of other effort that will fund a One Truckee River coordinator, and a large part of that will also help with the watershed planning side of this effort.
Okay, and then for this portion, are you planning, just like you're giving, or you're paying $100,000 to the Nevada Land Trust, are you planning to acquire the services of our GIS staff? Or are you hoping they're donating that, or how's that work?
Well, currently, the initial portion of this, I think there's a contract, and I'll let Chris Charlie kind of speak to this.
Actually, I think Ms. Robinson can probably chime in here.
Oh, okay.
and
Kim, thanks.
Get that out on the record.
Thanks very much.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, at the moment, what we're suggesting is that the consultants that are working with NDEP, and that's Resources Concepts Incorporated, are going to contract for GIS services through TMRPA to the tune of $5,500. And we have identified an intern resource to be able to do that work.
Okay, and so if we approve this today, that's what we're really approving, is that agreement and those dollars. Is that right?
Yes, and what you're
Or
doing is
something
also
bigger.
is the letter of participation is just, it's a commitment to be a part of the process, to be a stakeholder in the planning effort.
And so and I'm sorry, I didn't pre-read this, was the contract for a certain time frame? Was it for a year or something longer?
The $5,500 contract, that one,
Excuse me, I believe that is through May 31st. It may be June 30th through the end of the
Just
fiscal year.
6
So
months,
it's 5 or
really?
6 months, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions, comments on this? Commissioner Hartung?
And in response to Councilman Lawson's, to his comments, and I don't disagree, but I believe, isn't NDEP sort of mandated by the EPA and the Clean Water Act to oversee what Washoe County does?
that is correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So it's a federal mandate.
That's correct, yes.
I don't know if I could ask one more question. That'd be okay? Okay.
Yep.
I just wondered, because I too am extremely excited about this program, having worked in this water field for a long time, but I was wondering, practical on the ground, I think the envisionment is that you mentioned that you would then put forth a program where you might do some projects. Are you envisioning all the projects to be along the river, or could it apply in different areas, throughout this metropolitan area or the basin?
We envision it, to be honest, it's a very stakeholder-driven process.
So that would come up?
It should be prioritized through the stakeholder involvement.
Okay.
We don't have a specific area prescribed or in mind. We really, until we do the technical analysis.
Yeah.
I don't think even the stakeholders can come up with their project
Okay.
list. We have to kind of do the analysis, the characterization of the watershed, the source water protection areas, take a look at what those potential contaminant sources are, and then allow the group to kind of decide how they want to move that forward.
So I'll go right to the point. When we talk about the watershed, is Virginia Lake part of that watershed?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm looking forward to that, because just FYI, we spent some money at the city of Reno. We put in some permanent monitoring and some temporary monitoring to understand better the water quality of Virginia Lake. And we do have a report. We had hired a separate consultant from RCI. We have a report on that. The water quality has improved by some actions that the city took to put in a circulation system, which worked really well for one parameter, which is total dissolved solids, clarity. But we haven't had the wherewithal to have an ongoing program, and I didn't know if that might come into play, and if, algae's been a big issue out there. I didn't know if, that might ultimately be one of your projects potentially.
Birgit Henson, again, for the record. As Kim indicated, it is stakeholder-driven process. If that is an elevated project that's being identified by those stakeholders, then absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank
Okay,
you.
Councilman Lawson.
So by us entering into this agreement, this does not prevent us from doing like a Las Vegas model, where we do not have to go to the health department to get projects approved any longer.
Separate deal.
I was going to say totally.
The tunnel
Totally
waivers, separate
So
deal.
there's nothing
Yep.
that
Good to
these
get on the
cross
record.
over.
Right.
I want to make sure of that, because that's my intent, is to get us into the Las Vegas model.
I'm not familiar with that, but I can tell you that this is a voluntary, it's not a mandated program. So it's totally up to the community to participate on the level that they wish to participate. I think you're talking about the regulated public water system aspect of things, and while I do work for that bureau, this program is separate from that.
All right, that's, I just want to be clear that,
I think John would jump up if we were off track on this, but my understanding is that this is a totally separate track and relationship with NDEP. So, yeah, okay, good. No, thank you for clarifying. I think we got a motion up on the screen if someone would like to make it.
Chairman,
Mr. Hartung?
I will, final comment is that I'm excited about what you guys are doing to understand the sources of the contaminants in all forms, whether they're nitrates from septics or PCEs from defunct dry cleaners and automobile repair shops, at all points in between. So I would make a motion to approve this contract. I think it can be data-driven, and I'm excited to see the outcome.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Hartung, second by Councilwoman Dorr. Any discussion on the motion? No, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you so much. We very much appreciate the partnership that we have with NDEP, DCNR. Say hi to everybody in Carson City for me, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much. Happy holidays. I neglected to call, we do have public comment on 7A. Kathy Brandhorst, please.
My name is Kathy Brandhorst, and I am the United States President. You have possible direction to staff regarding source water protection. Well, again, you are not supporting us in our neighborhoods. Poles and wires are still being put up in our neighborhoods. And the stolen sewer lines. I flush my toilet and it is smelling because my neighbors are using my sewer line because they don't have the running water in their toilets. Ugh. Also, I just wanted to point out that they have no hot water. So they have to steal the water from my heater. Oh, my hot water heater is always empty because my neighbors don't have that water protection. Oh, I don't. The watershed management in Washoe County, well, we still have the water tanks across the street. Oh, they're full. Those water tanks are always being used, but I can see them emptying out because the people in our area do not have the service of water. You know, stealing water from the neighborhood or stealing water from the Washoe County and stealing water from the city, who's paying for it? That water is going to be paid for, I hope, by the county, so you could see what your problem is in our area. Oh. Also, I just wanted to point out, not only stealing my water in my kitchen sink, it splurts. There's not even water pressure because some of my neighbors have to steal that water in order to survive in the home that they don't live in. They are squatters. They don't live there at all. So how else are they going to get the water from everybody that pays for their water? Also, I just wanted to let you know, they're showing me the waste management. We pay for our garbage, but they dump their garbage in our garbage cans. And they don't pay for it, I pay for it.
Okay, thank you. Moving on now to 7B, presentation, consideration, and possible direction to staff regarding the 2017 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan update.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. For the record, Lauren Knox, Regional Planning. So we are going to be giving the update on the regional plan, and I'll be doing it in conjunction with Nate Kusha. So we're going to be going over the recap of accomplishments, some communication and engagement efforts. We'll be going over the MetroQuest survey results and have a preview of the next MetroQuest survey, and then do a really quick wrap up. So let's start with the summary of accomplishments. This illustration is really on page 52 of your packet, and what it tries to do is illustrate the summary of accomplishments and implications report that starts on page 57 of your packet. So I'll just walk through each of these items. So we'll start with the pre-update work, which you've heard a bunch about. These were really efforts that include work with the Portland State University Urban Sustainability Accelerator Program, the Industrial Land Needs Analysis, the Truckee Meadows Housing Study, and review of peer plans, both internally and externally to the region. We also did some policy evaluation. So that is where staff reviewed the policies and goals in the current regional plan against what the Nevada revised statutes require to be in the comprehensive regional plan. It's really helped us to talk about policies as they exist now. In terms of issues identification, and this was an exercise completed with the Regional Planning Commission, as well as the local government and affected entity staff to identify potential issues for the regional plan update. So we had some facilitated discussions, and we had questions like, what does TRMIPA do that works, what can be improved, etc. It really looks similar to the discussion that many of you had with ECHO Northwest a couple of weeks ago, one-on-one. In terms of major subjects of interest, this was an exercise completed with local government staff to really prioritize and discuss the major subjects that are currently within the regional plan. These subjects include items such as concurrency management and the TMSA and development constraints areas, and also items that currently aren't included in the plan, but we may want to look into, like economic development. In terms of themes, these were derived from the Nevada revised statutes, as well as these major subjects of interest that we chatted about. So they include things like population, social equity and housing, growth management, infrastructure, environment, economy, implementation, etc. For visioning and values, so staff reviewed a variety of visioning and values work that's been completed in the region recently. This was really at the direction of this board in an effort to leverage work that's already been done, use the resources we have, and not really reinvent the wheel. So this helped us to create a draft vision and some draft directional statements. Those were taken before the Regional Plan Update Working Group, the public through a flash vote survey, the Regional Planning Commission, and the Regional Planning Governing Board. For strengths and challenges, this was an exercise completed with the Regional Plan Update Working Group, and we were really trying to determine what are the strengths and challenges in our region. We discussed them by themes, and it helped to provide provide us with information about where our opportunities lie, as well as potential hurdles that we need to be aware of. We're really working to further refine these challenges and understand where the opportunities lie to help us create policy, which we're going to be moving into soon now that we have ECHO Northwest on board. The communication and engagement component was brought forward to the joint meeting in August with the Regional Planning Commission and Regional Planning Update Working Group. This document is really used to guide engagement and with the public and various regional partners and stakeholders. It acknowledges the visioning and values work that's been completed. It acknowledges the Regional Plan Update Working Group. It discussed 7 outreach methods for engagement. Again, it defines our regional partners and our stakeholders. And it's really seen to be an evolving document as we go through the process. And the last item up there is the Regional Sustainability Baseline Study. So this was a study commissioned with the Land Use and Transportation Resiliency Committee, and we are looking for that to help inform sustainability policy and direction in the regional plan update. And we anticipate that item to be completed soon within this month. So for the past few months, staff's really been working to implement that communication and engagement component and advertise the regional update and try to get the word out to as many people as possible. And we wanted to just provide you with a quick idea of our efforts so far. So we've broken it down into various media categories. So starting with in-person, we have gone to 42 meetings and done in-person presentations. We reached about 1,150 faces through that. We had a segment on public radio that ran about 10 times and anticipated to reach about 50,000 people. In terms of internet, we asked many regional partners, stakeholders, individuals, groups, anyone we could get a hold of to push out information regarding the regional plan update and the website and our survey through their various email lists as well as their social media. We also had an email go out to the Palomino Valley GID members. And then in terms of social media campaigns, we had many of them on both our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram platforms. So through those, we have about 402 followers. We had a Facebook reach of around 28,000 and Twitter impressions to almost 18,000 people. In terms of print, we had a couple of mailing inserts. So we had a buck slip in the Truckee Meadows Water Authority bill that went out to approximately 112,000 customers. We also had a slip in the Gerlach General Improvement District bill. We had an advertisement in the Reno News and Review with a reach of approximately 96,000. We were the subject of some columns in the Reno Gazette Journal. We had an article in the Sparks Tribune, which has a reach of about 10,000. We also disseminated various flyers at every meeting or event that we could. I'm sure you've seen that flyer roaming around. We also had tear-off flyers at UNR in 30 different locations. Last I heard, people were tearing them off, so that sounds good and positive there. In terms of television, we had a Face the State segment. We also had a segment on RTC's The Road Ahead. And then we had some public service announcements on Colo 8. So we had both a 15-second video and a 30-second video, and they're running at multiple times of the day, and they're still going. I just saw one the other morning, actually. So keep your eye out for those. And then all of the efforts that we tried to do to try to push people was to really get them to engage in our survey and sign up for future surveys. So we have some results from that first survey that we launched in August, and I'm going to turn it over to Nate to talk to.
Thank you. For the record, Nate Kusha, Regional Planning. So our survey closed on December 1st, and we're going to go ahead and go through some of those results right now. We had almost 1,900 participants, about 2,500 written comments, and around 34,000 different data points. As you can see, the largest portion of participants were from the 41 to 60 age group demographic, followed by 61 to 80 and the 26 to 40. That breakdown matches pretty closely with the demographic makeup of Washoe County. So here we have a map that shows the percentage of overall survey participation from each zip code tabulation area. As you can see, most of the participants were kind of from the central Truckee Meadows region. And this map shows the participation by total population of each zip code tabulation area. So for example, if you look at the 89510, the big red one up there, the area has a lower population, so even though a lower percentage of overall survey takers were from that zip code, we actually hit a pretty high percentage of the population from that area. Here we have a graph that shows the ranking of concerns based on the number of times they were ranked. So as you can see, infrastructure, natural environment, and accommodating growth were the highest, and regional identity was the lowest there. And this is from our trade-off screen. So these are the percentages of each trade-off from the survey, and highlighted in the red box is the highest percentage for each selection. Some preferences were clear, such as growing up rather than out, and spending public dollars to maintain and improve existing infrastructure rather than investing in new infrastructure. And others were not as clear, such as only a slight preference for more public transportation over more roads. That's all of the quantitative data we have. This shows the breakdown of our qualitative analysis. So this is based on all of the comments we received. So this is a scoring breakdown of the number of comments from each age group demographic and the top 2 reasons why participants were concerned with them. So as you can see, housing affordability was a big concern for the lack of availability and the diversity of choices. Traffic and roadway congestion caused by poor road planning or not enough capacity, as well as congestion caused by overpopulation. And growing too quickly, people were concerned with that it's outpacing infrastructure and that's diminishing our rural identity, and a lack of schools and overcrowding for schools, as well as a concern about sprawl because of the loss of open space and the infringement on wildlife. So that is kind of a brief overview of our survey that closed. There's a more detailed analysis in your packets in the attachment. So now we'll move into kind of a brief overview of our next survey. It's still in draft form, not complete yet, but we are working on it. So for this survey, we are working with Truckee Meadows tomorrow. And since the previous survey was really about challenges and concerns in our region, we tried to make this one a little bit more positive and ask about what contributes to our high quality of life in the area. So the first screen we have here is asking users to rank the top 4 categories in order of how much they contribute to the region's quality of life. You can see the different categories there we're asking about. The next screen is visual preferences, and asks the users to select the biggest factor within each of the 4 quality of life categories that they selected in the first slide. We're asking natural environment, we're asking about things such as air quality, clean and available water, open space access, connectivity. Finally, our last screen is an image rating screen that asks users to rate images within 5 separate categories, such as special events, public spaces, and recreation opportunities. This screen is meant to gain an understanding of what the public's aesthetic preferences are in the region. And our last screen remains the same, so we're not going to go ahead over that one. And I will turn it back over to Lauren. That is all our MetroQuest information.
So we might have to include Black Rock City in our sphere of influence for future
Oh,
TMSA.
100%.
Let's talk to Pershing County about that. I'm sure they'll be thrilled. Commissioner Hartog.
Nate, I got a quick question for you. I don't have the, it's on page 7, and it shows the breakdown by zip code, and it shows all of the feedback. When you tally up what you have there, I guess I'm not understanding how the feedback worked, because if you look at 14%, 8%, 4%, 1%, what's the?
Can we go back to that slide, because I think it's a very important map. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're bringing this up.
No.
Yep.
Next
One more.
The first one and the
That
second
one.
one.
That's the one.
Okay,
That's
first
the
one.
one. So, tell me what those percentages mean, because they only add up to 27%.
So
you
they're
take
not
the
exact
farthest number.
percentages. So for the areas in red, it ranges from they were 8 to 14% of the total survey takers.
Oh, I see. Okay. I'm sorry, it was unclear to me of what we were actually looking at.
No problem. Yeah. So this is total survey takers, and this one is by percentage of population in each zip code tabulation area.
So go back to the total percentage of the survey takers.
Correct.
It still only adds up to 27%. If you add everything up,
Well, according to the key, it does, but if you look at the specific percentages, so for instance, if the range is there, you've got multiple, say for instance, the red, the dark red, between 8% and 14%, you've got multiple zip codes that fall into that range.
Right.
They may contain a value of the overall composition up to that, but potentially, if I'm looking at 3 blocks, that's 3 times 14 at the top end of the range. So that's
Right,
where
so
the
each
I
calculation goes.
knew I should have stayed in the statistics class.
No,
I knew it.
Right,
I knew
and-
there was going to be a reason. I missed that date.
And there is going to be a
No, but you were
small
right to,
percentage-
you knew enough to ask the questions and say, wait a second.
And there's a small percentage not represented here. There's a percentage of survey takers that weren't from our area, but all that together adds up to about less than 1%. So it's not included.
Thank you for the clarification.
Well, and while we're at it, if we could just go to the next one. I mean, it stands to reason, this is nothing that would fall out of my range of what I would expect to see, but, pretty impressive when you see who apparently is concerned from the different zip codes, just by proportion of the population that actually participated. So that's good. And it's actually, I think it's a testament to the outreach efforts on behalf of staff in this effort to make sure that, people understand that it's worth their time to participate. Any other questions?
I would also, yeah, I would also note, if you look at the regional concerns on the quantitative analysis page, infrastructure is the highest, which that's comforting to me. That's right. That's
There you go. There
exactly
you go.
right. That is, I mean, it's comforting because people recognize how important infrastructure is, not just, oh, you know, I want quality of life. Infrastructure is the basis for quality of life. It's the basis for all of those other things to occur. I mean, it genuinely is, and I'm pleased to see that.
Yep. Councilman Abbott.
Yeah, when can we expect the next survey to be live or public?
We are hoping to launch that, right now we're hoping for January 1st. but
Cool.
It'll be sometime in January.
What was that, June?
January 1st.
January.
January, sorry, I had the peanut gallery next to me.
All the replies
Paul, knock it off. Stop trying to throw him
Wasn't
off.
too concurrent with what I was looking for.
Councilman Bybee.
Thank you all for your work. It's exciting for me to see, you know, to actually, as we gather this information, some of them are things that personally, as I filled them out, that I would agree with. Some of them weren't. And I think as we look at some guidance for the regional plan update, a lot of it might be what all of us are kind of the direction that we think we should be moving in, but so that, you know, validates what we think we know about our community, but then it also gives us areas that maybe we weren't quite so sure that was a priority. So I think everything in what you presented today is very valuable, and I'm excited as we move forward. This will really help us as we do the regional plan update to do it with the community in mind and moving forward in the direction that's going to work for our community and our constituents. Thank you.
Amen. Any additional? Councilman McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I find it not surprising that we could probably lay these findings over Reimagine Reno, and they're pretty close. The people are being very involved in this process. We had a very huge community involvement in our master plan process with the city of Reno, and you're getting good results out of this too. And don't be surprised as you move forward that you don't get more involvement from the community, especially if the results of the initial surveys are made public for people to look at, and they become more energized to be active, that their word's being heard. So good work, and let's say it's no surprise that the concerns of the community, and the word of the day is concurrency.
You're supposed to say, the word of the day is concurrency.
Right. And the numbers 2, 4, and 7, and the letters. Okay.
Mr. Bobson.
Mr. Hartung.
Thank you. I think one of the other things that this underscores for me, excuse me, my throat's going crazy.
So you do have the plague.
I do have the plague.
All right.
So what this underscores for me is the need to look at the region as a whole and how we affect our regional partners, not just Washoe County, City of Reno, City of Sparks, but all the things that are happening out in Story County, the things that are happening to the south. And ultimately, the long-range goal should be a regional governing board that that looks at the entire region and has the ability to mitigate the impacts and demand mitigation from our regional partners. Excuse me, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, real quickly, and to that point, the fact that there's a warehouse fire in Story County that the city of Reno, the city of Sparks, and Truckee Meadows Fire have to respond to because they don't have concurrency in Story County.
Exactly.
Many of us saw that photo. Many of us chuckled. Yes. Okay. All right. Let's bring this home.
All right. Great. So just have one more quick thing I really want to touch on for the update. In regards to a specific TMSA amendment request, the Reno City Council made it evident in a recent meeting that they wanted to explore additional locations where joint planning could potentially be appropriate. And it's a current part of the regional plan. As you can see, I have goal 4.2 listed overhead. Additionally, in regards to the same TMSA amendment request, the Washoe County Commission also brought about a conversation in regards to the Truckee Meadows service area and spheres of influence, and an appetite to review these policies in the update as well. So these have both been very strong topics of discussion among our update working group, and we really just wanted to let the RPGB know that we're committed to having these conversations in regards to the joint planning and the TMSA SOI as part of the update process. So we just wanted to touch on that. And with that, I have a motion overhead, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Councilman Bybee.
I will go ahead and make that motion. I move to accept this report regarding the 2017 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan update.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Bybee, second by Commissioner Burke-Bigler, and discussion on the motion.
And you got the motion before I got my discussion in. The point about the joint planning, we deferred action to the city of Reno on a project in Verdi that is a very glaring example of an area that crying for a joint planning effort. And the reason for that is that that development is going to have a huge effect on a portion of the county that has residences in it that are already suffering from issues in their community that are going to be amplified if the development's approved. And that's a perfect example of why we should be sitting down with the county and discussing how we can mutually agree to move forward and coordinate a mitigation of those impacts if that development's going to take place. I don't see a process to do that and to be able to approve that development because of the impacts on those county residents unless we do establish a joint planning area there and sit down with our friends from the county and resolve that. And the key word there is concurrency.
Okay, we are on discussion on the motion. Councilman Dorr.
I similarly I'm really glad that you brought up the joint planning because I know I was one that brought it forward too on a project that was proposed to be annexed into the city. That's in the sphere, that's in the county. And I think the county had voted to take that out of the sphere. And when it came to us, we did not vote to do that. We requested to do a joint planning effort. And I expressed similarly that I really didn't know how to proceed with that or what the process was or how we worked together. But I really wanted to do it. I just didn't know how to do it. And so I'm hopeful that the plan that we're talking about here and that we're about to vote on, accepting this report, will in fact lay out some process steps to help us through that. I think it would really help us coordinate, which is one of the big purposes of this whole body. So thank you.
Okay, any further need for clarification on the specific motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks so much. Okay, 8A, members and directors reports. We'll turn first to Ms. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the governing board. Just a couple of quick items. So as you know, you approved the contract with TMHC today regarding Enterprise. We are expecting a trip with Enterprise regarding the affordable housing project to coincide with your February 8th governing board meeting. So look for a presentation at that time. We're trying to get that worked out. I also wanted to mention, I wanted to say thank you so much for all of the time that you gave us during Echo Northwest trip here. They were here for 3 days, and we had a great RPC workshop with them as well, and also with our working group, our partners, the other jurisdictions. So thank you for your time on that. And my final piece here is that at the Reno Sparks Association of Realtors last month, I actually received the Abraham Curry Award, but really the award was for the housing work that TMRPA has done over the past year in the housing study. And I wanted to make mention of that and do a nice shout out out to the team because, you know, we do this together. So it's now the award-winning housing study. We're pretty excited about that. And finally, I'd like to say happy holidays, and I hope you enjoy your time and your celebrations.
All right,
Thank you.
well, and kudos on the award. I mean, we certainly experience that, or appreciate that validation from the association. They're great partners in all of this, and that's good to hear. Any members wishing to make reports? Okay, seeing none. Legal counsel's report. Do we have anything, Mr. Azevedo?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Norm Azevedo, members of the board, I have nothing further.
Okay, seeing none. We understand that Trustee Frankel is detained with another issue today, so we'll get her report another time.
She is alive and well. I saw her this morning at a groundbreaking.
Yes, very good. And item 9, requests for future agenda items.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lawson.
I would like to see us start to explore how we separate ourselves basically from the health department and water projects and the recent debacle that we've been going through, and be more of a Las Vegas type model. We've not had any violations, problems, or issues with our water with Tumwa or anywhere else since the inception of the Tumwa system. And it was an arbitrary, in my mind, arbitrary application of law that should not have happened. I want to move us away from that. I think this is the place to have that discussion because we're going to have some oversight here, I think, with the regional planning. And then the other issue is I'd like to see this board take up some topics on how regionally we can deal with the homeless problem. We you know, contrary to the Channel 8 news report that would look pretty bad, you know, if you just read the report only. Sparks is participating, so is the county, but we can always do more. It is a huge issue for us. And it's funny that the two things go hand in hand. When you slow up permits for building homes, that means apartment rents go up. That means people on fixed incomes lose apartments. And now people that were thriving members of our community are suddenly homeless and on the street. So it's a vicious circle that needs to get taken care of, and it's something that we all need to be a part of. And I think the regional is a great place to talk about it. We never seem to be able to pull off the concurrent meetings, but we meet every other month right here, and we can bring this back to our boards.
Well, and just by way of update, and I'm checking to see if I've got the date right for this. I do. So I echo your concerns about the need for the regional focus, and I think we do have a thriving partnership in place now that's getting even better. So myself, Councilman Dare, and Commissioner Jung all sit on the, we euphemistically refer it as the not-so-transitional governing board for oversight of the CAC. We have on our agenda for the 30th of January, our next meeting, discussion about an expanded role and a revisit of that role as more of a coordinating body for dealing with the tactical level day-to-day stuff that we deal with. That's not just the center in Reno, but obviously the full breadth of issues and strategies that need to be deployed. And my understanding is that out of that meeting, there will be some recommendations that go to the three entities in the form of our next concurrent meeting coming up. So, you know, we could do it here and have this conversation at this level as well, but that is also going forward to your point.
I think this board works together well, and we can bring that back to our corresponding boards. My concern really starts with the health department. When we were told at a concurrent meeting that they don't work for the entities and they have no liability or concern with economic development or keeping things moving. And that was a decision made by roughly 3 or 4 people to basically hold up a community of 400,000 people. That's something that's not right there. So that's why I want to address that particular issue.
So we have an agenda item, and I probably strayed a little bit by responding, but I was just trying to provide an information update Nonetheless, Mr. Hartung, I don't know.
By way of update, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great.
Tumwa did get the 500-foot waiver that was put back into place. We are currently seeking the same waiver that is provided, by the way, under NRS, that any program or any project, rather, that's less than 5% of your overall capacity falls under the waiver, which is where Las Vegas resides. And we're asking NDEP currently for that exact same waiver and to be treated equally, given, as Mr. Lawson pointed out, that in 17 years, Tumwa's had no infractions whatsoever. But I think that this is a good place to talk about, and I agree with Mr. Lawson completely.
Okay.
This is a great place to talk about the idea of how the health department can control certain aspects of the plans that this body and our individual bodies, of course, put into place to try to keep up with the rampant growth that we have. So I think it's a great
Yep.
conversation.
We'll put that on the agenda so we can fully discuss it. Councilman Bybee.
I just wanted to add, in addition to what Councilman Lawson talked about regarding the homeless issue, I think this is the perfect place to have the conversation, but I also see, as we're doing the regional plan update, housing is one of our priorities as we look at the regional plan update, and housing has been, the lack of housing and the crunch and the supply and demand right now has been a factor in putting people on the streets who weren't there before. So it kind of, in two ways, we have a real opportunity as we look forward with the housing issue and how we address that in our infill and types of housing that we need in the community to possibly remedy what is. The homeless situation is multifaceted with no easy answers.
I couldn't agree more, but I'm reluctant to say anything because we shouldn't really be deliberating here. I'm looking at Ms. Ratzeby. And do we have any other submissions for agenda items?
Yes.
Mr. Hartung.
One of the things that I think that it would be good for us to explore in our 2018 meetings is potentially taking a BDR forward to look at what a regional governing board might look like, with the ability to have regional impact fees, especially with respect to all the things we're hearing on I-80 East every morning. And so consequently, how are we going to, as a region, respond to those needs? And I would like to talk about what a board might look like, and do that in a succession of meetings. Thank you.
Okay, any additional agenda items for submission? Thank you for that, Mr. Hartung. Okay, seeing none. Public comment number 10, Ms. Brandhorst.
My name is Kathy Brandhorst, and I am the United States President. I just wanted to bring up an incident. There was a crime scene that was taken place by the bus stop, and it's on 9th and Sutro. Oh my God. It looked like a little girl to me. I only saw one shoe. Oh my God. And I just wanted to bring it up that the person might have been trying to cross the street, but the car actually deliberately hit the person, and the glass from the automobile, the headlight, is still lying in the street. Oh my God. And I just wanted to let you know that the car really deliberately wanted to hit this person. And also, I just wanted to let you know what else I found out, that the person that they destroyed, she was homeless, and they broke the lamp of her that she had with her, and they decided to go through all her things and smash it. And this is not what we're supposed to be experiencing here in this area at all. I think that's a very nasty thing to do. And last night, I was over in that area, and I did find a small, tiny T-shirt. Oh, my God. Maybe 2.5 years old. Oh, my God. And again, I just wanted to let you know that the grown-up that had to destroy that baby's life is still at large, still roaming the streets, and still picking on children. That is really awful, because why would they tear off the shirt off of a little girl or a little boy? Also, I just wanted to mention back on C Street where I live, the water situation has been really, really bad. And I understand now that I may be the only one left on that property. I have been trying to move out, but somebody always holds me back off of that situation. I'm supposed to move to Sky Mountain, but that person is still not moving out because she doesn't want
Okay, thank you. Do we have any further public comment? Okay, seeing none. Any written correspondence?
There is none.
We'll move to adjournment. Councilman McKenzie. Come on, man.
Hey, I wore out last night and took twice.
All right. Motion to adjourn. Commissioner Hartog. Second. Commissioner Burke-Bigler. Any objections? Yeah, I thought so. We'll see you. Happy holidays, everyone.